Daniel woke up with a sharp gasp, cold air filling his lungs like ice. His body felt heavy, and his wrists burned when he opened his eyes. Bright white light stabbed into them, making him squint. The room was small, metallic, and freezing, with walls that looked like polished steel. He tried to move, but his arms were strapped to a metal chair and his ankles were bound tight. The air smelled faintly of chemicals and something sharp, like burnt wires. A soft sound broke the silence. Footsteps. Slow and deliberate, Daniel turned his head, his neck stiff. Out of the shadows stepped a young alien woman. Her skin shimmered silver blue under the harsh light, and her eyes glowed faintly, like twin moons. Her hair was long and dark, almost black, falling over her shoulders in soft waves. She wore a tight white uniform with strange symbols along the sleeves. In her hands, she held a tray of strange metal tools. Each one thin, sharp, and shining. She stepped closer, her bare feet. Silent on the cold floor, her gaze locked on him, and her lips curled into a faint, unreadable smile. Then she leaned in so close he could feel the cold air on his cheek. "Relax, human," she whispered, her voice smooth and calm. "This won't hurt." Daniel's heart pounded harder. He had no idea where he was or how he got here. The last thing he remembered was walking back to his bunk on the mining station after his shift. Now he was here in a freezing alien room with a stranger who clearly had plans for him. His mind raced with questions, but his throat felt dry. What? What procedure? He finally croaked, his voice hoarse. The alien girl didn't answer. Instead, she set the tray down on a table beside him and picked up a small, flat device. It hummed softly when she touched it. Glowing with a pale blue light, she pressed it to his chest, just above his heart, and a faint vibration ran through his body. Daniel flinched, but the straps held him still. She studied the device's display, her brows tightening slightly. "You're strong," she murmured under her breath, as if speaking to herself. Then she reached for another tool, a long, thin needle with a silver tip. Daniel's muscles tensed. "What are you going to do to me?" he demanded, his voice shaking. Between fear and anger, the girl glanced toward a dark corner of the room, where a small, blinking red light was mounted on the wall. It looked like a camera when she turned back. Her expression was different, softer, almost sad. "Just stay calm," she said quietly. "Don't fight it." Her words only made his panic grow. The needle hovered inches from his skin, and he could see a faint blue liquid swirling inside it. He strained against the straps, the cold metal biting into his wrists, but her hands were steady, and she didn't hesitate. The tip touched his skin, and a chill shot through his chest. Then, just as quickly, she pulled back. Her glowing eyes flicked toward the door. Footsteps, heavier ones this time, echoed from the hallway outside. The girl quickly set the needle down and picked up a small, round object from the tray. When she leaned close again, her long hair brushed against his arm. "Listen to me," she whispered so low he almost didn't hear. "When the lights go out, run," before he could ask what she meant. The door slid open with a sharp hiss. Two tall alien guards stepped inside, their armor black and reflective, their faces hidden behind masks. They spoke in a deep, clicking language Daniel didn't understand. The girl nodded politely, speaking back in their tongue. Her voice was calm, but Daniel could see the tension in her shoulders. The guards looked at him for a long moment, their glowing visors scanning his body. Then they turned and left without another word. The door ceiling shut behind them. The girl exhaled slowly, as if she'd been holding her breath. She placed the small round object in his hand, cold and smooth, and curled his fingers around it. "Hide it," she said, her tone sharp, but urgent. "Don't let them see." Daniel's heart pounded even faster. He didn't know who she was, what this procedure was. or why she was suddenly helping him, but he knew one thing: something very, very bad was about to happen. And when the lights went out, he had no idea if he would even make it to the door alive. The room stayed silent for a long moment, only the hum of the machines filling the air. Daniel's hands clenched around the small, round object she had slipped him. Its cold surface digging into his palm. He didn't dare open his fingers, too. Look at it. The alien girl moved quietly around the table, her eyes flicking between him and the camera in the corner. She kept working, but her movements had changed. Less focused on the tools and more on buying time. Daniel's chest rose and fell quickly. His mind was full of questions, but asking them might draw attention. He watched her hands. Graceful but tense, her lips pressed together in a thin line. She looked like she was counting the seconds in her head. A sudden metallic clang echoed from somewhere deep in the facility. The lights above flickered, throwing the room into brief shadows before brightening again. She froze, then continued moving as if nothing had happened. Daniel caught the faintest twitch at the corner of her mouth, like she knew what that sound meant. The door opened again, but this time no guards stepped in instead. A small floating drone entered, its red lens scanning Daniel from head to toe. It stopped mid-air, emitting a quick series of beeps. The girl stepped forward and tapped a panel on its side, speaking softly in her language. The drone hesitated, then drifted back toward the door. It didn't leave, though. It hovered there, watching. Daniel shifted slightly in his chair, the straps digging into his ankles. The object in his hand felt heavier now, almost warm. He thought he felt a faint vibration through his palm. His pulse quickened. She noticed her gaze darted to his fist, then to the camera. Then back to him. Without a word, she turned her back to the lens and picked up another tool, shielding her. Hands from view, she held out her palm to him, opening her fingers just enough to gesture. Slowly, Daniel passed the object back, careful not to make any sound. Her hands worked quickly, attaching the object to the underside of the tool in a way that hid it completely. She glanced at the door again, then leaned in so close, her breath touched his ear. Almost, she whispered. The hum of the machines deepened, turning into a low, pulsing throb that Daniel could feel in his bones. The walls seemed to vibrate, and the lights dimmed again. This time, they didn't come back fully. A faint red glow replaced the white, bathing the room in an eerie light. The drone at the door beeped twice and flew away. Her eyes met his, not cold, not empty, but urgent. The straps at his wrists loosened suddenly. One by one, he stared at her in shock. "Now?" she said under her breath. Her hands moved to the straps on his ankles, fingers working fast. The hallway outside filled with a distant alarm, low at first, then rising. A voice in an alien language barked orders over an intercom. The sound made her hands move even faster. Daniel's ankles came free. He stood up too quickly, his legs weak. From sitting so long, she caught his arm, steadying him. "Follow me," she said. Her tone left no room for argument. She moved to the door and tapped a small panel. The metal slid open just enough for them to slip through. The hallway beyond was dim, shadows stretching across the walls. Somewhere far ahead, heavy boots pounded against the floor, coming closer. Daniel's breath came in sharp bursts as they hurried down the corridor. Every turn looked the same: cold metal walls, flickering lights, narrow passages. She seemed to know exactly where to go, never hesitating. Her bare feet made no sound, but his boots thudded against the floor. Echoing, a loud crash rang out behind them, followed by the hiss of the door they'd left slamming shut. She quickened her pace, glancing back only once. Her eyes were wide now, her calm mask slipping. Daniel realized something then. She wasn't just risking her life to free him. She was running for herself, too, and whatever was chasing them wasn't going to stop. They turned another corner, and she suddenly pushed him against the wall. A group of armored guards ran past the far end of the hallway. Their weapons ready, none of them looked their way the moment they were gone. She pulled him forward again. The alarms grew louder, and somewhere ahead, Daniel heard the sound of heavy machinery starting up. It was a deep, mechanical growl that sent a chill down his spine. He didn't know where she was leading him, but every step felt like it might be their last. Daniel's lungs burned as they moved deeper into the maze of corridors. The red emergency lights painted everything in a dim, bloody glow, making it hard to tell which way was forward and which way was back. The alien girl's grip on his wrist was firm, almost desperate, as if letting go even for a second would mean losing him forever. They ducked into a narrow side passage, the walls pressing close on both sides. The hum of the facility felt louder here, vibrating in his chest. A shadow passed across the far wall. Quick and silent, Daniel froze, but she yanked him forward without looking back. They reached a door that looked different from the others, round and heavy, with strange alien script etched into the metal. She pressed her palm to a scanner. The machine hesitated for a moment before a low click sounded and the door slid open just wide enough for them to slip through. Inside was a cramped room lined with shelves, filled with strange containers and sealed cases. She shut the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. Daniel's chest rose and fell as he stared at her. His voice came out low. "You need to tell me what's going on." She shook her head. "No time." Her eyes darted around the room until she found a black case on the shelf. She pulled it down, opened it, and quickly began digging through its contents. The sound of footsteps outside made Daniel's stomach twist. He could hear the clank of armor, the muffled voices. The girl moved faster. Pulling out a flat panel covered in glowing symbols, she tapped it a few times, and the screen flashed green. A small holographic map appeared in the air, showing a blinking dot far away from their current location. "That's where we need to go," she said, her voice almost a whisper. Daniel glanced at the map and frowned. "Why? What's there?" She hesitated, her glowing eyes locking on his. "Your way out. And my only chance to live." Before he could ask more, a loud bang rattled the door. The shelves shook, and one of the containers clattered to the floor. She quickly stuffed the panel into her uniform and grabbed his hand. "Back door," she said sharply, pulling him toward a small hatch at the far end of the room. She spun the locking wheel. The hatch swung open with a hiss. Releasing a rush of cold air, they crawled into a narrow maintenance tunnel, the metal floor biting into Daniel's knees. The space was so tight that their shoulders brushed the walls. He could hear the pounding on the storage room door getting louder. The sound of it finally giving way made the tunnel feel even smaller. "Faster," she urged. The tunnel curved sharply, and they emerged into another section of the facility. This one was darker, quieter, but only for a moment. From somewhere up ahead came the unmistakable sound of machinery powering up. The alien girl froze, holding her hand out to stop him. They both listened. The noise was deep and rhythmic. Like a giant mechanical heartbeat, her expression changed, fear flickering in her eyes for the first time since she'd freed him. "That's the extraction chamber," she said under her breath. Daniel didn't like the way she said it. "What happens there?" he asked. She met his gaze, her voice low. "If they take you there, you won't be you anymore." Her words sent a cold shiver down his spine. Somewhere in the shadows ahead, a red light blinked once, twice, then stayed on. Daniel stared at the steady red light, his heartbeat matching its rhythm. The alien girl's grip on his wrist tightened, her nails digging into his skin just enough to keep him focused. She didn't take her eyes off that glow in the distance. As if she knew exactly what it meant, the hum of the machines grew louder with each step they took. A deep mechanical pulse that seemed to pull them forward like a predator's breathing. The air was warmer here, thick, with a faint metallic taste. Daniel could feel sweat forming on his neck despite the cold in the rest of the facility. They moved slowly, keeping to the edges of the corridor. The shadows danced across the walls with each flicker of the overhead lights. Somewhere far behind, the sound of boots striking metal echoed faintly. The search was closing in. They reached a wide set of reinforced doors. Each one was lined with cables that pulsed faintly with blue light. A panel on the side showed alien symbols scrolling endlessly. The girl pressed her palm to a small scanner near the floor. The panel flashed red. Denying access, she hissed under her breath, glancing around quickly. Then she crouched, pulled a thin tool from her sleeve, and began working on the lock manually. Daniel kept watch, his muscles tense. Every small sound in the hallway made him think someone was about to appear. The girl's hands moved fast, the faint click of metal against metal filling the air after a tense moment. The panel gave a soft chime, and the doors slid apart just enough for them to slip through. Inside, the chamber was massive, the ceiling disappearing into shadows. Strange machines lined the walls, their arms tipped with needles, clamps, and tubes that dripped with glowing liquid. In the center was a single chair, not unlike the one Daniel had been strapped to. Only this one had far more restraints and a large mechanical frame above it that hummed ominously. The girl's face was pale under the dim light. Her voice was quiet but sharp. "This is where they were taking you?" She stepped closer to the chair and placed her hand on one of the restraints. "Once you're in here, the machine drains everything that makes you human. Memories, personality, even your instincts." Daniel felt his chest tighten. He glanced at the ceiling, noticing a faint red glow above the chair. "So what's the plan?" he asked. She met his eyes, her voice steady but urgent. "We destroy it. And we leave before they notice." Before he could reply, a loud metallic clang came from the far end of the chamber. The massive side doors began to open, letting in a blinding white light. Silhouettes of armed guards appeared in the doorway, their weapons already raised. The girl's hand shot out, gripping his arm. "No choice now," she said, pulling him toward the other side of the chamber where a smaller hatch waited in the shadows. The sound of weapons charging filled the air as the first bolts of energy sizzled past, lighting up the machines in flashes of blue. Daniel dove behind one of the larger devices, the heat from the shots brushing against his skin. The girl yanked open the hatch, glancing back at him. "Move, human," she snapped. Daniel didn't need telling twice. He sprinted toward her, the ground shaking beneath them as the guards entered. They slipped through the hatch just before another blast of energy slammed into the wall where he had been standing. The metal corridor beyond was narrow and dark, but it led away from the extraction chamber, and that was all that mattered. The narrow corridor rattled with every blast that struck the wall behind them. Daniel ran hard, his boots pounding the metal floor. The alien girl was ahead of him, moving fast despite her bare feet. Her breathing was steady, focused, as if she'd done this before. The light in the tunnel was barely enough to see, thin strips of flickering white along the ceiling. The air felt warmer here, and the smell of burning metal drifted from somewhere ahead, every few steps. Daniel could hear the muffled thud of boots in the chamber they'd just escaped. The guards would be through that hatch any second. They reached a junction, one path sloping upward, the other spiraling down into darkness. She didn't hesitate. She took the downward path. "Upstairs is suicide," she muttered over her shoulder. Daniel didn't argue. The deeper they went, the louder the hum of machinery became, until it was almost a roar. The tunnel opened into a massive maintenance level, filled with pipes as thick as tree trunks and giant fans turning slowly overhead. The air here was damp, and condensation dripped from above. Splashing onto the metal floor, steam hissed from broken vents. creating white clouds that made visibility even worse. The girl slowed just enough to scan the area, then pulled him toward a narrow service walkway along the wall. Daniel gripped the railing as they moved quickly. The walkway trembled under their weight, and below them he could see a deep pit of shifting machinery, gears and pistons the size of small vehicles grinding together. One slip and they'd be torn apart instantly. A sharp metallic click echoed from above. Daniel looked up in time to see two small drones detaching from the ceiling. Their lenses glowed red as they locked onto them. "Go." The girl snapped. She pushed him forward and turned, pulling a small black device from her uniform. She pressed a button and tossed it toward the drones. The device exploded in a burst of blinding light. The drones spun wildly, their sensors disrupted. Daniel didn't look back. He pushed forward, his legs burning. The walkway curved sharply and led to another door. This one marked with more alien symbols. The girl reached it first, typing rapidly into a small keypad on the side. The door didn't open. Instead, a red light flashed. She cursed under her breath, locked from the control station. Daniel looked around, panic rising. Then what? Before she could answer, the sound of boots returned, echoing down the walkway behind them. She grabbed his hand and yanked him toward a narrow ladder set into the wall. "Climb," she ordered. Daniel started up, the rungs slick from condensation. His hand slipped twice, but he kept moving. She followed close behind. Halfway up, a sharp burst of energy cracked against the metal beside him. Sending sparks into the air, Daniel climbed faster, his muscles screaming. They reached a hatch at the top. The girl shoved it open and pushed him through. They emerged into another corridor, this one dim and quiet. The alarms were softer here, muffled by the walls. For a moment, it almost felt safe, but the look in her eyes told him it wasn't. She took a deep breath and said, "We're close, but they'll never stop hunting us now." Daniel's chest rose and fell as he tried to catch his breath. The corridor ahead stretched into shadows, broken only by the occasional flicker of light from faulty wall panels. The alien girl stayed still for a moment, listening, her head tilted slightly, the tips of her hair brushing her shoulders. Then she motioned for him to follow. They moved quietly, their footsteps soft against the smooth metal floor. The air here felt different, warmer, heavier, carrying the faint scent of ozone. Daniel's instincts told him they were close to something important, maybe even the docking bay she'd mentioned earlier. But before he could ask, a deep, commanding voice echoed from the darkness ahead. "Stop!" The word froze Daniel in place. A tall figure stepped into view, emerging from the shadows like he'd been waiting all along. His armor was darker than the guards they'd seen before, layered with heavy plating and glowing insignias that pulsed faintly with red light. His helmet was off, revealing pale, ridged skin and sharp black eyes that locked on Daniel instantly. The girl stiffened beside him. "Commander Varric," she said quietly. Daniel didn't need a translation to know this was bad. The way she said his name carried weight and fear. Varric's gaze shifted to her. "You've gone too far, Lyra." His voice was calm, almost casual, but it carried the kind of authority that didn't need to be raised. "Release the human, and perhaps I will let you live." Daniel took a half step back, but Lyra moved in front of him. Her voice was steady. "He's not going into the extraction chamber." Varric's eyes narrowed. "Then you've chosen your fate." Without another word, he reached for the weapon at his side, a long staff tipped with crackling energy. Lyra stepped sideways, her movements fluid. She reached into her uniform and pulled out a small, disc-shaped device, pressing it into Daniel's hand. "When I say run, you run," she whispered. Eric moved with surprising speed for his size, closing the distance. In a few strides, his staff lashed out, and Lyra barely blocked it with a small metal baton that snapped open in her hand. Sparks exploded between them. The sound sharp in the narrow corridor. Daniel backed toward the wall, watching them move like shadows. Each strike and counterstrike faster than he could follow. Varric's strength was overwhelming, each blow pushing. Lyra back, her foot slipped slightly on the smooth floor, and Varric lunged, his weapon arcing toward her head. "Run!" She shouted. Daniel didn't think, he just moved. Bolting down the corridor with the device clenched tight in his hand. Behind him, the sound of metal on metal echoed like thunder. Lyra's voice rang out once more, sharp and urgent. "Docking. Bay, the panel will open it." He sprinted through the darkness, the corridor splitting ahead. He picked the left path. The sound of the fight fading behind him, but never leaving his mind. Every step felt heavier, every breath sharper, and in the back of his mind, one thought burned. If she didn't make it out, neither would he. Daniel's boots hammered the floor as he tore through the corridor, the device in his hand growing warmer with each step. The air changed suddenly, thinner, sharper, and he knew he was close to the bay. Ahead, the hallway opened into a wide chamber with massive windows showing the black void of space. Two guards stood by the docking controls, their weapons already in hand. Their helmets turned toward him, lenses glowing red. Daniel didn't slow. He clutched the device tighter. Remembering Lyra's words at the last second, he slammed his palm and the device against the control panel. A burst of blue light shot out from the panel, racing across the room in a wave. The guards staggered, their visors flickering. Before going dark, they collapsed to the floor, unmoving. The massive bay doors began to part with a deep, grinding roar. Revealing a small shuttle secured at the edge of the platform, Daniel sprinted toward it, but a voice behind him froze him. "In place, you think you can leave without her?" He turned, heart pounding. Lyra stood in the doorway, leaning heavily against the frame. Her uniform was torn, her baton cracked in half, and blood, dark and shimmering, streaked her cheek. Behind her, the corridor was empty. Varric was nowhere in sight. Daniel rushed to her side, supporting her weight as she limped forward. "What happened?" She shook her head. "Doesn't matter. We need to go." They made it to the shuttle. The metal ramp clanging under their steps. Inside, the controls glowed faintly. Lyra slumped into the co-pilot's seat, her hands trembling as she pressed buttons in rapid sequence. "Hold on," she warned. The engines roared to life. The vibration running through the deck plates, the shuttle lifted, gliding smoothly out of the bay into the vast black. The planet below glowed faintly under alien city lights. Daniel glanced at her. "You could have left me there. Why risk everything?" Her glowing eyes met his, and for the first time, she smiled. Not the calm, cold mask she'd worn before, but something warmer. Almost human. "Because Daniel, you're not just a prisoner to them." Her voice dropped. "You're proof they're not the only ones who can shape the future." Daniel looked out at the stars ahead, the weight of her words settling over him. Somewhere out there, the galaxy had just shifted, and neither of them could turn back now. The shuttle vanished into the dark, leaving the station and everything it stood for behind.